Hey, welcome to the Ministry Mix podcast, where we're bringing you real conversations for the souls and strategies of ministry leaders. I'm Phil Gifford, and I'm joined by my co-host, Richard Pope. Hi! Whether you're a seasoned pastor or ministry leader, or just stepping into ministry leadership for the first time, we're here to share stories, insights, and practical advice to help you lead strategically while also caring for your soul. In each episode, we'll dive into topics that matter for your church's mission, your calling, and your own personal growth. For this episode, our post-lunch episode, we're going to talk about 10 ways to understand and engage your city better. So we want to look at really as a ministry leader and as a church. We believe that one of the ways that you're going to reach your city, do ministry in your city, is to understand your city better. And so we want to give some ideas on how to make that happen in a practical way. Sound good?
Hey, before we jump in, I want to share this quote from Eugene Peterson. This is one of the quotes that I think Peyton and I read pretty early on in our church planting journey and helped kind of model for us and helped kind of, provide some boundaries to what we were doing. Eugene Peterson said this: "The kingdom of God doesn't arrive on a white horse. It shows up in a neighborhood among real people living real lives." In other words, man, when you go and you're doing ministry in a place, even if you're not a church planter, but if your church is in a city, one of the things God's calling your church to do is to reach and engage that city. I love that quote from Peterson because I think we often think, how can I do a big thing? How can I save, the city? I think more accurately what God's calling you to do is to go live in that city, be with the people. Mm-hmm. So Phil and I have 10 ways to understand your city better. And the first one, Phil, kind of goes along with that quote. It's live there.
Yeah.
To actually be there.
Be present. In there, be in your community. I think that even if you live far away from, Richard's having his post-lunch struggles over here, even if you live far away from the church, which we don't recommend, we would not recommend, even if you live outside of the community where you're serving, you've got to find a way to do life in that city because that's the only way to really understand that city. You just can't commute culture, to a degree. Yeah,
look, I live in a semi-rural area, a little bit more rural than you, Phil, obviously. You're in a suburb. But for us, it's not uncommon for a pastor to live 2 towns over from his church. And I actually have a church planter who planted out of our church 30 minutes up the road and was going to live in Salisbury still. He ended up moving to Cambridge. And what he said to me was, Richard, it's like, I don't want to drive there every day. It's a 30-minute drive each way. I can. Cool. So I'll go work in a coffee shop there. I'll go do events there. I'll meet members there. He said, the problem is when I have to run to the store at 10 p.m., I'm not running to the same store as those people.
Right.
So it's there's something about identifying with a people. And I think that comes from doing life, not just with them, but like them.
Yeah. You're going to their playgrounds, you're going to their grocery stores, you're going to their coffee shops, and not just from a commuter standpoint, but invested in this place.
And it makes it so much easier, I think, to do the next thing, which is work in the community.
Before we go to there real quick, let me pivot. I know, but I'm going to pivot back because this is part of our church planning journey. I was pastoring in a church 20 minutes away in a different town, on the other side of the highway, completely removed demographic. And for a while, my default was kind of go drive in, do ministry, and then come home and do life. And I separated my life from my ministry. And I just don't think that's a healthy way to understand the city or to minister. So we had to make a choice. We want our kids to go into the schools where we're pastoring. We want our playgrounds to be the ones where we're pastoring. So if you find a way to embed your life in the community, it helps. And as Richard always said, the second way in is to work in the community.
Yeah, I would just jump in on this, man. Can I just be a church planter, talking to church planters for a second, and then I'll apply it wider? If you do not have enough support to work full-time, go get a job part-time at a coffee shop, a restaurant, a bookstore, Walmart. Go work in a position that
Uber, DoorDash, substitute teaching.
I'm not saying Uber doesn't work. Uber, you get to have conversations, but there's something about the repeated frequency of working with a batch of employees. I was super blessed. I was looking for a job when we were planting Canvas. I made $26,000 the first year. We're in a poor community. We didn't have it. Didn't have tons of support outside of our network, and I was a no-name planter that didn't really come from this denomination. So for me, raising support was hard in the beginning. Oh, how the turntables. But that being said, it's
how the turntables, how the tables turn.
15 Baptist jobs later. That being said, though, I was able to get a job at a local Coke facility. So just a unique idea as a chaplain. Now, I wasn't going in there and preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ standing on top of soda crates. But what I was able to do was build relationships with people. And it gave me an insight into not just how do people in my city think or talk, but what do they feel? So, man, I would even say look for clever ministry opportunities. Hospital chaplain, police chaplain, maybe not coach. Go be a little league coach. Your kid plays basketball. Be a basketball coach. Find ways to like build relationships in the community that aren't pastor like citizen, but are like citizen.
I think that's the advantage that a lot of church planters have is without a building or an office, you get kind of stuck in this, like, if you have a church office or church building, I feel like you can fall into the trap of it's just convenient to go to your office. And you guys are there now, like, and I don't necessarily know that you're healthier for it as far as your engagement in the community goes.
I've had to be super intentional. And I never had to before.
Like Rise Up is like, where'd you go, Richard?
So, real story, a girl passed away who's like famous in our city because she's been the manager of that Rise Up for like 10 years. I found out on social media 3 days later. And I felt bad because before I had an office in our new church building, I would be at that Rise Up 7 days a week.
Right.
Now I go maybe twice a week. So, you know, there's advantages to having an office that I didn't believe were real till I had one. But I got to say, man, there's something about, you know, and if you don't need another job, grab your laptop, go work at the coffee shop. If you want to know the best and the worst of your city, this is a quote from a human sociologist. He's not a Christian, but he said, if you want to know the best and worst of your city, you got to go 3 places: the coffee shop, the bar, and the police department. And it's just basically, you know, in a police department, you hear the stories, the bad and the good. At a bar, you meet people, you hear the good and the bad. At a coffee shop, you hear the bad and the good. Now, most likely, if you're a ministry leader, you're probably going to go to the coffee shop because you're not getting arrested and you're not getting turned. So, like, I do think, though, man, I feel use that in coffee shops. Go in there. Here's a challenge: without your headphones on.
Yes.
Just listen.
Because there's a way to go to a coffee shop as a church planter thinking I'm in the community when you've got your noise canceling headphones on, you're deep into exegetical work in your sermon, and you don't see a thing that's happening.
You have your iPad up with Logos, and you have your laptop just typing away. Yeah, and I've done it.
You're literally just sitting there, and that's okay if you're there to grind and get work done. Yeah. But I mean, look for people that you know. Every time I try to go into, like, there's certain places that I go to, and depending on what I'm trying to do, it's like I'm going to have one conversation in this Panera Bread today or this coffee shop today. And I don't know who that person is, but I'm going to try to have a conversation. So just find work and that's what I would do with my Liberty adjunct teaching. I would do all my grading in a coffee shop because I had real work to do. So I wasn't like some creeper just working on his personal blog. Like I was there with real work, but I was in a place where I had opportunity to meet people.
Yeah.
The third thing,
which kind of piggybacks,
is to embed yourself in community places.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think that this one...
we both inhaled like we were going to say the same point. Go first.
I think we already kind of touched on it, but man, like, can I just say go farther than being at the coffee shop? So I make friends with people who don't know Jesus. Like, be active enough in community places that you do that. So I do... I'm not like... This isn't like a weird like plug, but I do... You know, I go to a mixed martial arts gym, and I box, and I do kickboxing, I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And I've said this there, like, I hear more words in that space that I would maybe hear at my church, but probably not. You know, and I go there, but here's what's happened. There's guys who come to our church who literally are like, how the F you doing today, bro? What's up, Rich? Not pastor. I'm just their friend.
Yeah.
Like, and that might be different depending on season of life. Like, my wife and I don't have kids. So, you know, I'm 28. I'm able to go. I have a flexible jobs. So I'm able to go in the middle of the day to a 12 o'clock kickboxing class. Right. But like for you, man, don't just take your kids to Little League. Volunteer. Right. And Phil, you've done a good job of that with the soccer coach.
Yeah, I've coached 12 years in different sports.
Yeah.
We've really very involved with the rec system here. When we actually first planted, I don't think we have to do this anymore, but we had to actually put together like a planting proposal, like a whole paper
prospectus?
Together. Yeah, no, not a prospectus, a proposal, like a paper.
Yeah.
It was like a 50-page stupid paper that you had to write.
I would have ChatGPT.
Maybe, well, that was before ChatGPT. So, but ChatGPT would have helped though. Well, we had put together a strategy that said, how can we make sure that our church and our people are present in the third places? What I mean by that is like not at their home, not at their work, but where do people go in those third places?
Yeah.
Wow. And so we actually identified 7 key we call them community hubs. the 2 or 3 playgrounds that are in our community, like a Wegmans grocery store, the gym. There's 2 gyms that are here that people, like, they go to one or they go to the other one. The library. Did I mention that one already? The library, those are the kind of places that, and how do we have a strategy to be present there? So we, in our first few years, we just frequented those places as much as possible to embed our life there and encourage our people to do so now.
Yeah.
So embed yourself in community places.
One of the ways you can do that is actually our next idea, prayer walking. There's this quote I want to share from Mark Batterson. Mark Batterson, some people love him, some people hate him, but aside from a few theological differences, what I love about Mark Batterson, do you know his story, Phil? He pastored a church, started a church. It wasn't growing. They ended up starting a bunch of churches along the DC metro. So imagine you have one church that's not growing and you say, you know what, I'm going to start like 6 more all at once. And he would just preach like 2-3 days in a row, at these churches. And it was an act of faith. And everybody's like, this is stupid. That came out of him. He knew that where they were was an unaffordable location long term. So every day, 7 days a week, he would prayer walk in a different neighborhood of the community. So our next one is prayer walking. I love this quote from Batterson. Prayer walking is not just about claiming ground. It's about loving people enough to intercede for them on their turf. So Batterson says that he walked 7 neighborhoods, looking for a new location. He was praying, God, give me a place. And he said that God didn't give him anywhere. And then he started saying, God, do you want me to love these people towards Jesus? And the answer was yes to all the places. So they came up with this creative strategy. And that's why they own coffee houses and thrift shops. And they really found a good way to engage their city by embedding in it. But that came from prayer walking.
Yeah.
Pastor, if you want to see your community, even ministry leader, if you kids volunteer, if you want to see the kids that you need to reach, go walk around your neighborhood. If I go on a 4-block walk, I take my interns. We do this with our interns like once a week. And different route every time, but we're going to walk, man, and within 4 blocks of our church. So we're in a historic, kind of wealthier neighborhood, but we're right next to a historic lower income neighborhood. And we're right next to a neighborhood filled with drug houses. Like, we're in an intersection. We're going to walk. In one walk, I can see someone smoking pot. I can see someone like who's definitely stoned and falling asleep on their porch. I can see a mom with like 3 kids playing in a garden with a house that's worth $1 million. And I can see like a young person of color who's like just playing outside. And I'm like, man, it's like 7 p.m. You're like running in the road. Where's your you get the idea. In one block, I can see the totality of my city. And when I walk there, it's cool. When I prayer walk there, I'm like, God, how do we reach these people? It's incredible the way the Lord will open doors through that prayer.
Through physical presence. Yeah. Well, and I think it's just, you will get insights that you'll not get driving. Like 100%. When you put your feet on the sidewalk and just your presence is there, your car's not there, you're not closed off. It opens up your eyes. I think spiritual insight into your community will often come through your physical presence. And so, we've prayer walked virtually every sidewalk in this community. And we kind of need to go back to doing that, honestly. Like, there shouldn't have been a time when we stopped, but we have slowed down with that. But I just think God will show you what Google can't. Yeah. When you start walking around. I
got to quote it.
That's good.
You know what book I'm going to? 3 Mile an Hour God. Kosuke Koyami. The whole point of that book is that love moves at a speed that's intentional, that's slow, but intentional. So like, it's a book by a Japanese theologian. His point was that Jesus walked everywhere. Yeah. 3 miles an hour. Why? Maybe 3 miles an hour. And the idea is that Jesus was slow enough to see what was happening, but was intentional enough to go where he needed. And I think a lot of times church planters and ministry workers, we're intentional, but we're not slow.
Yeah.
And there's a way to intentionally move slowly that I think God blesses. So,
well, I think
I just thought about that when you talk about prayer walking.
I don't have this whole story to share, but I think even if you don't see immediate growth in your church, praying that God would do something in your city is going to have some spiritual fruit. So like Tim Owens, a mutual friend of ours.
Love Tim Owens. We love you, Tim.
Shared, so Tim's, I'm sure he's a faithful listener. I don't think he knows. I don't think he knows we have a podcast.
He does. I told him.
Okay. He's definitely
I think he listens, bro.
Well, if Tim Owens listens, so he can send me a text message. But, Tim planted his church in Rutland, Vermont.
Yep.
And at some point in his journey, he found a journal of this older couple who was praying that God would do a work in their community and was prayer walked every sidewalk of that community and wrote notes about what they saw before he even had a dream to plant there. And it kind of laid a spiritual foundation and ask of God to do something that became the groundwork for his ultimate church plan and other churches as well. So yeah, just find ways to be prayerful and present in the city. Let's move to the fourth one or the fifth one so we can finish this podcast with the time we've got allotted.
How much time do we have left?
I don't know. We're about halfway there.
Oh, good.
We're doing good. So this one comes with both a danger and I think some benefit. Demographic surveys is the fifth tip for understanding your city. And here's why I say danger and here's how I say benefit. You can see things more objectively through statistics. Like when you look at the demographic survey, you look at census data and you go, oh, these amount of people live in the poverty level. This is the ethnicity breakdown. This is the income. Like you can get a lot of insight through that data, but it's deficient if you don't have the other things we've already talked about. So like you can understand some things about your city, but don't think you've understood your city by just looking at a printout from Google. Yeah. So do some demographic research, ask some questions. There's some great ministries like that we used when we planted to kind of that already had done the legwork to help us understand the city. But demographic, you should be a student of your city, and Google's a great option for that. What is the medium household? I didn't know this. I knew this subjectively. Like there are 3 elementary schools within about a mile radius of where we're sitting recording this podcast in my community. Wow. And each one has between 500 and 1,000 students. So within a mile and a half, give or take, there's these 3 elementary schools. So there's a lot of young families, right? By subjectively being here and seeing that. But when you go on the research and you see Google and you realize that if the state benchmark is here, we're 25% to 30% higher than the state average of young families.
Wow. So which is why you want to reach young families.
So yeah, which is why we're going after young families as a church, because that's who's here. We have townhomes, we have starter homes. We're in that kind of like that first step into adulthood where there's a little bit of grass in some yards. So they get excited about moving out here. So you see that in a demographic survey, but you understand that when you're out at the playground and prayer walking and those things.
Amen. Yeah, and you slow down enough to actually see what's there.
Yeah.
Another way to figure out, besides demographic surveys or prayer walks, is talk to the local leaders.
Yeah.
One thing we did at Canvas that I think we did well is we built relationships with our mayor's office. We built relationships with some city council members, nonprofit leaders, and in a very transparently, at times that's been hard because our city is radically post-Christian in its beliefs.
Yeah. They're not interested in talking to you for the most part or your work.
If you Google City of Salisbury's and you just look at our website for our city, you will understand what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. But I love my city, man. I really do. I would say, it's not always easy to love my city, but I love my city. Here's why I think I'm able to love my city, though, is because I talk to other people who love my city. We might disagree on the issues. We might even disagree on the solutions. But when you talk to people who are passionate about the city, man, it's helpful. And Salisbury is a very young city. The average age is like 28 to 31. It moves a little bit every year back and forth. But, so it's people like me. But that being said, when you talk to leaders, the biggest thing I would say, and I learned this the hard way, everyone's asking them for things all the time. Mm-hmm. There's that old quote, people don't care about how much you know till they know how much you care. It's corny, it's cliche. It's also really true. I've had the opportunity to pray for our city council meeting, and I prayed things that, I'll be honest, I wasn't trying to make a scene, but I prayed things that I was literally told not to pray.
Right.
Hey, keep it, agnostic. I'm like, I'm a Christian pastor, man.
To the holy presence that guides us.
To the holy universal mother, father, God, Allah, Yahweh, Shalom. Yeah. Like they basically, that's how most of the pastors who pray there are Unitarian Universalist, right, or more liberal Methodists, or like PC USA guys or gals, or some mix. Mm-hmm. So yeah, when I went there, I prayed pretty aggressively that our city would repent and turn to Jesus. Not for a specific thing, just in general. Our Democrat city council president thanked me, hugged me, loved it. Our Republican mayor thanked me, hugged me, loved it. Sure, some of the people were ruffled. But that being said, man, they were open to me praying that because I have a relationship with them. And because we've demonstrated love and care. When the new mayor got elected, man, I fought like crazy to find his phone number. I wanted to be one of the first people to text him that he did not know. And I said, hey, I'm a pastor in town. I love you. I don't know you, but I love you. And I will pray for you every single day. And that's opened up room for conversations. Like, so talk to leaders, but I would say pray for leaders, serve the leaders in your city. It's easy to put a door knocker on a door. It's not much harder to go to the mayor's office and drop off a gift basket.
And asking questions like, what do you need? How can a church help not hinder this community? Like, just get some really good questions that are not from the, here's what you can do for us.
Yeah.
Here's how you can promote our events or promote us. But like, what can we do to make us a really helpful partner? So what are some of the leaders you think people should talk to? Mayor, you mentioned already.
Mayor, council president, school board members.
Yeah, school board, I would say school principals, because they're in the weeds with the families.
A lot of times you'll have sub neighborhoods. So like in Salisbury, we have 8, maybe more, but I know of 8 sub neighborhoods.
Yeah.
The lines are spotty. Like I live in a part of Salisbury called Lincoln Heights. There's the Camden neighborhood. There's downtown.
But the local representation of those neighborhoods.
A lot of times there'll be some sort of like small association leader.
Yeah.
It's easier to get them than your mayor.
I agree.
But I also believe this, man, unless you live in like a major city, it's not hard to get in contact with your mayor. No. You just gotta be consistent. I probably texted one city leader who I won't name like 60 times before they responded to me. I just found their number on the internet. Yeah. And every time I saw something divisive or weird in the city, I didn't text my opinion. Dude, even when they were saying things publicly that I believe are biblically immoral, I would just say, hey, there's a lot of tension right now. I'm praying that you would have peace.
Yeah. So you ministered to them.
All of a sudden they reach out to me when someone they love passed away. Dude, 59, 58, I could count. It was like that many messages read, not answered. They'd be like, who's this crazy pastor? But I was present.
Yeah.
And this person represents my city. So if you want to know your city, you have to know the people who represent it.
And I would even add, like, there probably are strategic, like, family-run businesses that everybody knows in your city. If you can get to know those owners, the guy we were talking to at the pizza shop today, he's always there. Like, you get to see people.
Yeah.
So like, find a way to engage those conversations. Vance Pittman says something that I think is strategic. He goes, find a way to be the pastor to your city. Like, you're not just called to pastor your church, you're called to pastor your city. And so that can take place through talking to leaders.
I agree.
The next point, which I believe is number 6 or 7.
Yeah.
There might be 11 on this list that I'm looking at. That's what we get we do not do a lot of prep on our podcast, to be fair. There are about 20 words that are in our entire show notes here.
No, there's 10, Phil. There's 10. You just embarrassed us for nothing.
Well, it's never for nothing.
100 conversations.
Yes. Our next tip, whatever number it would be, is have 100 conversations with people in your community. I personally am of the position that you should not plant your church or start a church service until you've had 100 conversations with people in your community you're planting. What I mean by that is neighbors. They don't need to be like big, hard, deep, like gospel 4-hour presenting Jesus conversations, but I think you should have some sort of exchange with 100 people to get to know how they think, how they talk, what are their burdens, and at various levels of engagement. So I think if you're a church leader and you're trying to understand your city better, children's worker, whatever it is, think about how can you have conversations with people at the coffee shops, at the businesses, at the playgrounds, at the gym that help you understand them better.
Minimum 100 conversations.
You think that's too small?
I do. I think it's 100 just to even start planting a church.
I agree.
I think you should still strive to have 5 to 10 a week after.
Do you think how do you think an established church pastor or ministry leader should view that, though?
Don't be an idiot.
Okay.
I'm kidding. No, okay. I get really spicy about this. Let me tone it down. I think that we are overly strategic, and I don't think strategy and simplicity always go together. I am pro strategy, but
you and I I would say we're extremely strategic. Most of what we do is intentional.
In one of my roles, I get to do a lot of coaching with churches. And there was a church that saw growth at our church and saw growth at a lot of other church plants, established church. Richard can help us. They're about 300 people. So I come in and it's their executive pastor, their lead pastor, a few other pastors. They'd be fine with me sharing the story because they were embarrassed, but it was holy and good.
Yeah.
And they have like this 19-step plan to have gospel conversations. And dude, I got like 4 hours of sleep the night before. This is not good. I walked up with an eraser and erased the whole thing and literally wrote, "Don't be stupid" on the board and said, "Do you guys want to talk now?" Because I come in and I'm thinking we're going to have like a meeting and just talk, get to know each other. And they're like, "Hey, sit down. You want some coffee?" They're like treating me like a celebrity because I work for their denomination, whatever. And at the end of it, they're like, their church is twice, at that time, twice as large as mine. And they're like, and I'm like, dude, like, this is easy. Just go talk to people. Like, it's not that hard. And at the end, I'm just like, don't be stupid. And they're just looking at me. I'm like, can we actually talk? So I just asked those, maybe it was 6 leaders in the room. I say, hey, I want you to write on a piece of paper 10 lost people you know and love.
Mm-hmm.
None of them could.
Yep.
And I said, okay, pause. I know you know 10 lost people. The problem is you don't love 10 lost people. I said, so now I want you to write on a paper 10 lost people you know. They couldn't. So I was like, okay, I want you to write 10 places you go that aren't the church building. And I said, now you got to go in the next 2 weeks and get to know one name of someone who works there or frequents there that you can see again each of those places. I go back a month later, they all did it. Praise God. And I said, okay, now name 10 lost people you love. And they did. Because they had been praying for and thinking about. So I think honestly, those 100 conversations is a starting point. But man, like getting into a habit for an established church, for that random kids ministry leader, pick 3 people, pick 5 people, and pray for them every day. But go out of your way to talk to them. And how do you grow that? It's easy. When you go somewhere, everywhere's a gospel opportunity. We went to a pizza shop for lunch. And a guy liked my t-shirt. And I told him about the brand where I got the t-shirt from and told him about a shirt that I guessed he would like. And he did sound like it. I was like, oh, this is good discernment. Praise you, Jesus. Now, man, like, Phil, you can go back and be like, hey, my friend loved
Hey, did you get that t-shirt?
Yep. My friend loved the pizza. Or like, remember my friend had Taco Bell shirt, whatever. I'm going to Taco Bell shirt. I think that's it. I think you literally just have to learn people's names. I can't remember who said this. I want to say it was Chan. It might have been Matt Chandler. It might have been one of the other cool guys from the early 2000s.
You're choking because of your...
It's one of the young Restless Reformed guys. But they said that when you know someone's name and you take their name to the name of God, you love them.
Yeah.
I think the 100 conversations is a great starting point. It's a good campaign. But man, it has to be
continued.
Because if you don't continue it, then it's like flash in the pan.
One of the best things we did, and I said that we need to go back to this, is before we planted, I got a giant sticky, denominationally endorsed giant sticky. I put it on my
network sticky.
I put it on my basement wall, a giant Post-it note, and I wrote numbers 1 to 100 on there, and I said, who are the people that in the last 10 years of living in this community God has put into my life? It wasn't 10 years at that point. It was maybe 6 or 7. And I was like, I thought I was going to get stuck at like 10, but I was able to, by God's grace, I was able to fill that out with people who didn't know Jesus, with families that we knew. Yeah. And that became like who I was praying for. And so many of those families have either seen something happen in their life. They've come to our church. They've had a gospel conversation. But to me, that's just such a really key. If you're not constantly building new relationships, you will struggle to understand your city, especially 100%. Reach your city.
100%. And the world is becoming more and more transient. And as it becomes more transient, it's being harder to develop relationships. Yeah. So you have to be more aggressive. Hey, as you develop those relationships, as you have those conversations, our next one is this: look for causes, not symptoms. Something in Salisbury. Salisbury has a long history, short version of this, of racial disunity. About 50% white, 50% Black and Hispanic, like 1% Asian. And of course there's little percent changes every census time, but that's pretty much been consistent for years. When I first came to Salisbury, I said, man, I want to pastor race reconciliation. And no, I'm not woke. I just believe that the gospel's for all people. People are going to comment, woke. They're going to start commenting on our church pages, Phil. But yeah, I wanted to see racial reconciliation in my church. And I talked about it a lot. And guess how much we saw that in my church? None. So I started digging. I actually interviewed, going back to conversations and leaders, I talked to some Black leaders in my city. Dude, how come Black people don't like my church or like me? I just asked. And I said, I don't want you to defend, I don't want you to protect me. I want you to inform me. And what I found out was there's a long history of white churches in my city who would talk about racial reconciliation, who would do MLK celebrations or Juneteenth celebrations, but they never platformed Black leaders. And even before that, there's a long history of churches in my city kicking Black people out. So my church included, not Canvas, but I own a building now that was built in 1878 by a Methodist church. They actually let Black people sit in the balconies. And during the Jim Crow days, it got so tense, they kicked them out. They said, you're not welcome here. And a 30-year-old Black guy doesn't know that, but his grandma knows that.
The culture feels that still.
His grandma points at that building growing up and says, there's a bunch of racists. So like, don't look for the symptoms. The symptom is racial disunity. The hurt is like, we kicked people out of their churches that they went to for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years.
Right.
Because it was too messy. And that's just one example. You could look at poverty. Okay. Or you could look at drug use.
Yep.
Drug use might be the symptom.
What's the cause?
Fatherless homes, poverty, lack of resources. And when you can find those things, and I believe this about outreach, which is a whole other episode,
Yes.
we often do outreach that Christians want, which is why we only reach Christians. But when you say, man, what does my city need? I remember, I think it was Vance Pittman that said this, your city has a pulse, a heartbeat, and it breathes. Figure out what's causing it to breathe heavy.
Yeah.
And it hit me.
One of my mentors, Randy Millwood, which I think we want to get in a podcast sometime.
Santa.
Yes, who also, anyways, he loves Christmas.
He sees you when you're sleeping.
So all right, we're never going to finish this podcast episode. He did a lot of work with church revitalizations, and of course, for a church to be revitalized, they've got to move from inward to outward focus.
Yeah.
So, ministry leader, we're trying to help you think through how to focus outwardly, but not just at causes, at symptoms. And so, like a church that he would maybe be coaching with, he gave an example of a church he was coaching with. Like, we're going to start a clothing pantry, or what do they call it? A clothing bank, food. Like when you have a
Clothing closet.
Clothing closet. Yeah,
Something
we're
like
going to start
that,
a clothing closet. And he's like, "Oh, does your community have a nakedness problem?" You're like, "This is an affluent neighborhood, 100+ K salaries, and like they want your thrift store, Walmart t-shirts." No, that's not. That doesn't connect with the causes or symptoms at all, even in the community.
I have a homeless pantry.
Yes.
You don't.
Yeah, I don't,
very different
and we
communities.
wouldn't until in this location because
We're in very different places.
yeah, we're trying to figure out how to help that mom with their 4-year-old, and not that you're not, but like. So again, causes and symptoms.
The 4-year-old in my city is affected by homelessness.
Yeah,
Even if they're not homeless.
they see it. They
Dude, I showed you. Remember that time we drove around?
yeah,
And
and
I
you're
was
just like, "Stop here, get out of the car."
Because they were members of my church.
I know.
All that to say, like, you can't reach people that aren't there, which means you need to know the hurts of the people who are there. It's like going into like Italy and being like, hey, we know in Italy you have a huge problem with like insert natural disaster. If you could tell me, hey, you have a tornado problem in Maryland, I'm like, no, we don't. We have them. But you go to Oklahoma,
They have a tornado problem.
they have bunkers in their garages.
Right.
You go to Florida, you have a hurricane problem. You go to New York City, normally you don't have a hurricane problem.
You are Dr. House in your community.
Yeah.
You need to look beyond.
love that
I know
show.
you do. We had an episode about that.
We did.
You need to look for the causes, not the symptoms. All right, lightning rounder. This will be your longest episode. The 9th thing is start things and do things.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, don't get stuck in scholar syndrome. Like, pick something to do. And it'll help you understand what's better. Don't hold it like it's going to be like for here, first annual whatever, but like one of the best ways to understand your community is to start serving your community in ways. And if it doesn't stick, then don't keep doing it, but start things and do things. Like actually start doing ministry. And if it works, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like just start stuff. And I've started stuff that doesn't work and we kill it and move on to the next thing.
If you don't start stuff and kill stuff, I don't think you're actually planting a church. Or you're just Jesus and you can have mine too. Like, no, I mean, I think I don't just think that's planting. I think that's everywhere. Like, be okay to fail. Like, be okay that you do something that doesn't work, but let it be a learning opportunity for what works better next time. Hey, the last thing is observe rhythms.
Yeah.
And example of that in Salisbury, we're a college town. We have 3 colleges in our city. When college is out for the summer, our city shuts down. So what our city does, our city government, Chris Ford, he's been a couple episodes over our podcast. He's my worship pastor. He's also the city events guy. They plan a bunch of concerts and things for the city to do because no one else has anything for the city to do. We live in a music event town, and for 3 months, there's no music or events. So our church has realized if we want to connect with this city, if we want to reach our city, we need to understand the rhythm of our city. And one of those rhythms for us is events in the summer.
Yeah.
It just works.
Well, like when do they go to work? Where do they go to work?
Yep.
When are the weekends that are off? What do they do for fun on the weekends?
Yeah.
Like you're just, basically like, what does the traffic patterns look like? When are the peak times? When are people out? Like what's going on? Like, and so like you've got to schedule things. So for instance, our schools go so late. Like our schools get out June 18th this year is the last day of school. That surprised you, doesn't it?
I think ours is the first week of June.
Yeah, and a lot of churches or schools in the South, they're already done with school.
Yeah.
And so like if you come in and you're like, let's do VBS June 1st.
Yeah, no way.
No one's coming to it.
Yeah.
So I guess just a practical example, like understand, and then people all go on vacation as soon as that's done. So like you've got to understand the rhythms. And so we build our church schedule off the rhythms, and we want to be a part of that rhythm. Like we want our rhythm to be the city's rhythm.
Yeah.
and come alongside it, not compete against it. So, well, hey, I hope these 10 ways that we've given you tips to understand your city have been helpful. At the end of the day, as a ministry leader, your job is to study your city so that way you can help bring God's timeless truth to that context in a way that it's heard, in a way that impacts it to the best of its ability, best of our ability. It's probably, all right, Post Lunch is catching up with me. Any closing thoughts, Richard?
Yeah, you have to know your city to engage your city, and you can't be faithful and not engage your city.
You'll never reach a city you don't understand.
Amen.
So, hey, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Ministry Mix. If you found today's content valuable as Richard drums on the mic, that literally hurt my head in my headphones.
Sorry.
If you found today's context and conversation helpful, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. If you could, take a minute to leave a review. Your feedback helps us reach more leaders like you. If there's questions and topics you want us to talk about, please connect with us on social media. Let us know how we can serve you better and have conversations that help your ministries. Until next time, keep leading with purpose and caring for your soul.
How long?